in talking about informed consent, I chose a sample from a LPC that is in the state of Georgia, and I'm in the state of North Carolina, so it's not the same. Her sample was 3 pages long, and it was very informative. It was really clear cut and good communication. Anyone could understand it, I feel like. And but there were a few things that were a little confusing. It was really interesting to be able to read it and to see, like, in comparison, what that should look like. She did describe the nature of services provided. She talked about saying who she would counsel. She said that she did families and individuals and groups, and the different varieties that she would counsel. And she also gave like a theoretical orientation as to what she would use, as far as the different kinds of counseling techniques that she would use. She also gave like clear cut information on her qualifications, her credentials, how she obtained those, like her education. She talked about how she had gotten her experience, and there was nothing left to doubt or to think about in all of that. She even went as far as to say like who she was certified through, and kind of what her thoughts were as far as counseling was concerned. So I felt like that was really covered in her informed consent. She also talked about the purpose and the goal and the techniques and the procedures and limitations. She talked about all of that. She talked about the risk. She talked about that, it may not make a difference, but that it is proven to make a difference. She talked about that they may experience unpleasant feelings and that growth is sometimes difficult. So I thought that was really interesting that she went as far as to say that, but she also talked about like different techniques that she would use, like what the purpose and the goal would be, and that she, believed that if people were willing to do the work, that they definitely could have some freedom through counseling of what they were suffering through. She even went as far as to say that she doesn't prescribe medication, and that she could refer to other people if that's a need that they have. She did talk about if she's not available for further counseling, but she didn't go as far as to say as if it was death or incapacitation. She just basically said if she was sick for an extended period of time, or a short period of time, that she could refer to a colleague. So she also talked about the role of technology. She talked about emailing not being a source of doing counseling, that people could confirm like appointments, and they could talk about things about their appointment, as far as like canceling an appointment or anything like that. But she said, that email is not a convenient means to do counseling through. So I thought that was interesting. She went over fees and billing, and she talked about if people didn't show up for a visit, but she didn't go into like if they didn't have non-payment, because according to her informed consent, people had to pay at the time of receiving services. So I feel like that's what was covered in that. She also talked about diagnosis, but she didn't really go into anything about tests or reports or anything like that in her informed consent. She talked about confidentiality and covered HIPAA, and she talked about that consequences, like if people refused certain services and that kind of thing. But she really didn't say anything about records or anything of that. She did cover if people have an inability to give consent. Um, And the state of North Carolina, um, it gave um, it gave a vague recommendation of what the guidelines should be on informed consent, and that was pretty much covered the same as the ACA's um, rules. I did use for this a source from the American Counseling Association. I did use their code of ethics, so I used that as a resource. And um, the thing that I found most surprising, I feel like, about the informed consent that I saw on the internet is just how clear it was, and how informative it was, and just so simple to understand. Okay, thank you.